Water Agency. Pam, would you please call the roll? Pam, would you please call the roll?
Sorry for the delay. Can you hear me, President Dias?
Yes.
Thank you. We were having some trouble with our audio. Division 7, Gary Van Dam.
Here.
Division 6, Audrey Miller. Here. Division 5, Rob Paris.
Here.
Division 4, George Lane.
Here.
Division 1, Shelley Sorsable.
Here.
Division 3, Frank Donato.
Here.
Division 2, Keith Dias.
Here.
Dwayne Chisholm.
Here.
Jim Markman.
Here.
And Pam Clark, present for Holly Hughes.
Thank you. Item 3, voluntary public roll call. If any member of the public wishes to introduce themselves, please feel free to do so now.
Hi, Keith. This is John Joyce representing the Roseman News.
Thank you, John.
Joe Long with Stantec Consulting.
Hello, Joe. If there's no one else, we'll move along to item 4, public comments and period open to the public. If anyone wishes to address the board on any item not on the agenda, please feel free to do so now. If there are none, we'll move along to item 5, adoption of agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
Mr. President, this is Rob. I move we adopt the agenda.
Thanks, Rob.
This is Director Miller. I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Rob Paris.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes. Thank you. Item 6, presentation and workshop on the next phase of AVEK's Enterprise Water Bank. Wayne?
Yes, Board President Dias, members of the board. The subject of tonight's workshop is consideration of moving forward with a phase 2 portion of the High Desert Water Bank. The board asked that we have this workshop in order for us to go into staff to present to the board where we are with our current project and how, as if we were going or we're planning to go into a phase 2 project, how that might look and what that process might be. So this is a workshop with the intention of being interactive. We have a set of slides here to present, and we'll go through them one by one and move on from there. So to give you an idea of where we are with our existing High Desert Water Bank Phase 1 success, We have 70,000 acre feet of banking facilities funded by Metropolitan Water District. They are also, that would be 50,000 acre feet of water going into the water bank, and I said 50. I meant 70,000 acre feet going into the water bank and 70,000 acre feet coming out of the water bank. And we have 270,000 acre feet of storage. All of the construction costs, the operation, maintenance, replacement costs are all funded by Metropolitan through an existing agreement that we have with Metropolitan Water District. AVEK does have some secondary rights to facilities that are not in use. One of the advantages of moving in this direction with regards to this enterprise high desert water banking is we have a net minimum revenue source of $2 million a year, which can be utilized to offset future costs for the agency. We also improve the health of the basin because only 90% of the water is recovered, with 10% it's a classic leak behind. So that gives you an idea of where we are with regards to the high desert water bank. When we developed this project initially, if you may remember, we weren't sure whether we were going to have anyone significantly interested in working with AVEK on this project. So we did our own preliminary siting and study work that was done by Kennedy Jenks, and we started acquiring some selected property. And as we go through this whole process in here that I'm talking about, until we get to the Metropolitan Agreement, this was all funded in advance by AVEK. So we put some seed money into the project, approximately $8 million, in order to be able to get to the point where we could get an agreement together. And that's going to be one of the key differences you'll see in phase 2 versus phase 1. So once we did our preliminary site study, we went to a preliminary layout and cost. This was done by AECOM. And following that, we went to a financial feasibility study just to make sure that, given the costs and the benefits, was there a sufficient return on investment to have our partners look at it favorably. We did some partner outreach to many of the state water contractors and others in trying to get partners to work with us on this first phase of the project. Then we went through our CEQA process with AECOM, and then we went into a more detailed design with Crollo Engineers. And that it's at that point that we had the project far enough along to where we could meet with Metropolitan, and they requested that they acquire all the capacity that was in the proposed phase 1 portion of the project. And so we had no other partners other than just Metropolitan for the phase 1. And as the board is already aware, in an item that we'll be talking about later, we're well into the project implementation. Most of the final design is complete, and we're working on the construction side of that project. In the process of negotiating the Metropolitan Agreement, AVEK was able to recover the full $8 million that we had put into the project on an initial basis. So there was no ratepayer money that was utilized with regards to the high desert water bank. So some of the objectives that staff has identified for the phase 2 project would be to increase supply reliability for AVEK customers. We're thinking that there's a portion of this bank capacity that AVEK might want to have on their own. This would help to supplant some of the, would be in addition to having the San Luis storage. Oftentimes, one of the key critical matters to have is that we have about 20 to 1,000 acre feet of storage in St. Louis Reservoir in order to meet our peak demands. And we believe that if we might be able to utilize a portion of the phase 2 project to be able to meet that particular demand, and and so we wouldn't have to rely so much on St. Louis Reservoir, and we'd have that water in the bank ready to go for us when we need it during those critical summer months. And we also are looking at the possibility that by utilizing some of the capacity in phase 2, there may be some cost benefits associated with this phase 2 project. And our new engineer that's on board is doing a study to look at those two proposals and which one makes the most economic sense for the agency. And we'll present that at a future time once we get that further defined and further identified. But that's one of the objectives that we were looking at with regards to this report. I'll stop there to see if there's any questions with regards to that. Hearing none, helps us meet we're hoping to help meet some of our, as I mentioned, some of our water supply reliability objectives with the urban water management plan. Once again, assuming a size similar to what we have with the phase 1 project, phase 2 project would double the financial benefits that AVEK would receive. So we would go from right now during the existing contract with Metropolitan, the benefits range from $2 million to $7 million a year. If we were to go into phase 2, those benefits would double essentially to $4 to $14 million per year, and without any significant risk to the agency. And we've had considerable interest from many other agencies who would like to bank here in the Antelope Valley. So, and here's a list of some of those. And once again, I put AVEK at 20,000 acre feet on this particular chart. But you can see that we have interest from the Central Coast Water Authority at 2,000, Metropolitan Water District at 50,000. And this is annual recharge. Palmdale Water District at 10,000, Santa Clara Valley Water District at 50,000, Santa Clarita Water District at 20,000, Tejon Ranch at 10,000. And you can see the total storage requirements that they're looking at and the put and take numbers. And these are all preliminary, but gives you an idea of what we're looking at. And you can see here that the potential minimum annual usage fee would, once you adjust for inflation, as that fee goes in, it's a little over $4 million on an annual basis. So we have some other potential partners and some other private parties. There's others that might join in with regards to this project in the future, and we need to have provisions for that. The interesting thing to look at is on this map, and I thought it was here's the High Desert Water Bank is right here. This is yellow is our service area. And these areas that are colored here are various water agencies that would be utilizing a portion of the water bank. And so you can see that most of quite a bit of Southern California will have interest in the water bank. The Central Coast along the coastal branch here, and then the large one up here at Santa Clarita, or Santa Clara Valley in the Southern Bay Area. And there could be others as the program continues. So what we, excuse me, I get a drink here. What we anticipate this time is that we would use an MOU process to begin this portion of the phase 2 project. And what that would be is we would develop an MOU between the various participants. It would provide a term sheet, a summary of the material terms and conditions, not of the final not of a final agreement, but as a increment, because we're going to review and term sheets is the first stage. This would all be reviewed by the AVEK board. We would prepare the detailed MOU. This would be which also be reviewed by the board. So you can see we're doing it on an incremental basis. And then we would engage our partners with the MOU and the term sheet and agree on the next steps and timeline. And then we would finalize these MOUs and then be subject to board approval and the various boards of those public agencies that we would be negotiating with. All of this work would be covered by the agency, so there wouldn't be any need for the phase 2 portion of the project to front load any expenses with regards to those. And that's the reason for those beginning MOUs, in order to work at it from that. And then at that point, then we begin the planning, the stages where we go into the same type of siting and feasibility studies, technical land acquisition, and so forth. And all these development costs would be paid by the partners that are involved. Any questions with regards to that?
This is Shelley. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
The town needs to do water banking. I thought they had their own.
To home, they do have their own, but they would like to expand it, and they are very interested to have in not only providing property for the second phase, but they would like to have a component in that. If Tahoe's also involved in the sites reservoir project, and they're involved in some other projects within the San Joaquin Valley. So Tahoe Ranch is very active in the water area, and so they've requested to be a part of that.
Okay, and then thank you. And then my second question is, you said that AVEK wouldn't incur any costs, but they would incur their percentage of the water bank that would be dedicated to us.
Right. Now, if the board decides to be a participant at 20%, then we would have our incremental cost factor that's associated with that. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that for the board.
Yeah.
Dwayne, Director Lane, I had a comment also that regarding, I think it's a sound project, and I'm sure Glenn's it's brought for this session. We can talk about it and discuss it, and it's much better than just coming up in a board meeting and not having a time to review it or contemplate. But the one item I wasn't aware of till this evening is 20,000 potentially talking about for AVEK's participation, 20,000 acre feet, and that may or may not be good. But in one point we're going to have to talk about fairly soon, if we go any further with this for AVEK, is where's the funds going to come from?
Right.
And for years we've discussed, and I think the board's pretty much agreed that the original Dawn project, the taxpayers paid for. We have enough water in most instances for our population. So if we're building it for new growth, it's not fair, and our existing taxpayers should not be paying for the new growth. They have enough water, and so if we have incremental growth, that needs to be considered where those dollars are going to come from.
Yeah,
and it's I think we've gone away from that in some instances, but like I say, we've got plenty of water if we don't have a drought right there.
Yeah.
Drought, but let's think about that real soon. Where's the funds going to come from? We're talking about I would take it we're talking about multi millions of dollars.
Yes, we are, and is that our new engineer is one of his first tasks is to prepare a study, determine what the costs would be and what the benefits might be, and what the trade-offs might be with regards to a cost avoidance on the SNP line, and see if we might be able to accomplish a couple of different things. But I just bring it up to
That's okay.
but we haven't made a decision, and we could go the board could easily not be a part of that as we move, but we have to go through a lot of more detail.
Just about everything is good, but can you afford it? And that's what
Exactly.
it gets down to. And, it's pretty black and white how this is very few options, how it's going to cost somebody some dollars.
Right.
And unfortunately, too many agencies, they try to justify it by some other means or something that's not, forthright. And we need to be very, forthright. Do we need it? How are we going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for it? And the answer, should existing taxpayers that have ample water supplies be paying for it? I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, I think, Dwayne, aren't we talking about having our partners pay their fair share of whatever the cost is to put in this water bank? That's the whole goal.
Yes, that's correct. The vast majority of the one way to look at it, I guess, is that if AVEK the board decides not to participate in the project, then 100% of the cost would be picked up by the partners. It would only be if AVEK chooses that it's to be part of the project and have a dedicated portion of storage and recovery that we would have to pay our incremental costs. It's just an option for the agency as we go through this project. We don't have to include that or have that be a portion, but it's important that we kind of look at it, analyze it, and see what turns out to be the best way to go. And as Director Lane has indicated, we'd have to go through all the financials to make sure that there was a good reason and how much is growth and how much is for existing and so forth, and those would all have to be determined.
Yeah, because we've always been cognizant of that, I believe, and we'll continue to do so.
It's not for existing. We have enough for existing.
Right.
Who is it for? And that's who should be paying for it.
Right.
This director, and I don't have a comment I'd like to make. One of the things we're running into as an agency is there's a lack of buying our water. It isn't that we're meeting the goals. Even every time we cut back to 5%, we're meeting our goals, but that's not making water for the agency so we can continue to build projects. The one thing the board has to realize, I know most of you probably do know this, but when we get our tax money for the assessments, for the year, that money is solely used to pay back on the bonds of the state water project. We cannot use that to lower water rates. We can't use that to build infrastructure. It's solely used for that. And what we're going to be lopsided no matter what this next year, because the water with the cutbacks of the state water project, and on top of that, our water companies are asking the residents to cut back on water use, which means we're not selling water. So we need to really look at things before we start obligating ourselves to any serious projects, which I know I'm not saying anybody's falsely saying that we're going to do something, but I have reservations right now to do anything massive that's going to cost an extra $10, $20 million of this agency's fund. And what George says is correct. The average person's not out there like him and myself on a day-to-day basis that sees what's happening to the deterioration of the commercial use and things like that. And everybody says, AVEK needs to be ahead of the game. Well, I'd like to see them start bringing in millions and millions of dollars of developer fees, because we haven't seen it. We just had the three most biggest inflated years that this valley has ever seen, but it has not come with new development. It only has come with existing residential properties, and the commercial status is going the other direction. So we really got to take a look at what's going to happen here in the next not 5 or 6 years, what's going to happen in the next couple of years. That's just my feeling on that.
Mr. President, this is Rob. I have a question.
Yes, Rob, please.
Yeah, Dwayne, the storage charges that are around $4 million a year, that would be coming to our agency, correct?
Right.
And when you work out the finances and what it's going to cost us, can you also make sure we look closely at what the payback to us would be, even if we go in at the 20%? How quickly we're going to get paid back for our investment based upon those storage costs?
Yes, that would be all part of the financial analysis that would be performed on that.
But personally, as one director, I'm very excited about moving forward with this project. I think we have to understand that we are perfectly positioned to do water banking, and if it's for our neighbors and to help Southern California, and at the same time give us the ability to do more, make more money on the storage and help our ratepayers that way and provide more infrastructure, I think this is a big step forward. So thank you.
Okay. So let's dive in a little bit more to what the MOU says, or what the purpose of the MOU is: to formalize the terms of participation and share the development costs amongst all the banking partners. So there's the elements of the MOU include this list. Some are binding provisions and some are non-binding provisions, and this is for the partners. These are binding on the partners and non-binding on the partners. So when they sign an MOU, they'll each partner is going to pay their pro rata share of the program costs, capacity costs. There will be some program development budget and cost sharing amongst the partners. The program will have a timeline that will be identified, and then we'll develop some milestones. And I think this is important to understand that just like if anybody who's going into a partnership, they have to have some opt-in, opt-out provisions before the project goes so far. So what we're anticipating is that we'd go into the first milestone would be the preliminary design report and initial cost estimate. If any of the partners wants to change their numbers or reduce their amount or opt out at that point, as long as they pay all their back costs, that's okay. And then everybody's agreed to those that move forward would then reapportion all the costs for the next milestone until you get to a formal agreement like we have with Metropolitan Water District. And we anticipate that there could be new partners that are added if some drop out, or there could be just new partners that are added once they realize that AVEK provides a good opportunity for them for future storage. So those are the binding provisions. Some of the non-binding provisions are, our preliminary construction timeline. That is, those are non-binding, can't bind to those. The target operation date of when the program's going to get, finished. Our capital and operating budget cost share. It's just too early to tell exactly what those are going to be. And then the target program capacities and the program usage fees. All of those would be non-binding until we further down the line of the process and we get a formal an agreement like we have with Metropolitan. So this MOU that we're talking about, and this is what we hope that the board will authorize us to move forward with, this is what this would contain. So if you look at the overall implementation schedule for phase 2, we'll develop these partner MOUs, get everybody on board. They'll have to go to their boards and and get their boards to approve the MOUs with terms and conditions for the first initial phases. And that's in 22. And then 22 and 23, we'll start our technical and financial feasibility analysis. Those are going to be necessary for all of the partners to be able to go back to their boards and be able to show that they're doing their due diligence to make sure this project is something that makes sense for each of those partners. We will then in 23 finalize those partner agreements, and then if you're looking out a little bit further in 23, 24, looking at land acquisition, and then the following year with CEQA, and then about the time that phase one is ending construction in 24, you would be looking at possibly getting to the point where you'd be in the design and construction in another 3 or 4 year period for completion of the project. So that's kind of the basic timeline as we've kind of seen it, and we anticipate this as being fairly reasonable as far as the timeline given our recent history. And so as we move forward, we'll be looking at potential locations. We're going to look at various alternatives for the project. We certainly have a good idea of where we think those are going to be, but we still have to do due diligence for all of the potential sites that are located around the high desert water bank. We're also going to look at the ability of potentially returning water back to the west branch of the aqueduct. This would really help out a lot of the west branch users like Metropolitan Water District, Las Virgenes, which is a contractor of Metropolitan, Santa Clarita Valley, and others that are in that area. And then we also want to take a look at for the proximity to the LA aqueduct. There's a new cooperation between LA and Metropolitan and utilizing those potential capacities together. And then, we're always looking at hydrology capacity and just feasibility costs. And so we use that feasibility study to very much like we did before to kind of determine what the preferred site would be, and realizing that it will get further refined as we move farther down the line. And so, just to give you an idea, here's our Healy Branch project. Here's our West Side Water Bank. Here's the High Desert Water Bank. Here's the East Branch, and we're located along here. We also have this. This is where the bifurcation goes, and this is the west, the West Branch in here. So working with the Hone and others, we'd just be looking around in this general area. Here's the LA aqueduct. You can see it comes down through here. That's that dotted blue line. And so we'd be looking in this general area here to see where it would be most appropriate to locate. There's an afterbay here that has some interesting characteristics to it that might allow gravity feed as we go east, from here to potentially an area up in here. And, if we can get some return back and get back over on this side of, make it easier to serve the west side, the west branch of the State Water Project. So the next steps, what we're really looking for is a authorization from the board to a consensus to explore the development of the next phases of the AVEK Enterprise Water Bank, develop those MOUs for our partners, and we'll have to request proposals for the initial financial engineering and hydrology feasibility study once we get all these development partners on board. So that's what the game plan is, and hopefully really you have a clear idea of what the differences are between how our phase one project went and how the phase two project would go. And and hopefully you have a better idea of what the next year or two would look like for the agency. With that, I'll happy to answer any questions. We do have, just to let you know, we have Harold Glazer, Paul Chow, with Kennedy Jenks on the phone, along with Matt Payne from Westwater Research and Joe Long from Santec, in case there's any questions that I couldn't answer.
Well, Dwayne, this is Keith. In reviewing your recommended next steps, I certainly support the proposed steps, taking into account comments by Director Lane and Donato and Sourceball. But I'd also like to hear from our other board members.
Keith, this is Rob. Yes, I agree with you completely, and think it's an exciting potential project, and we should move forward.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, Keith, as a Director Van Dam, I agree with you also. I think this is something that the future holds for us, and I like the return money, the $2 million, and then hopefully, like George said, we could make the new hookup and meter people or users end up paying the majority of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
This is Director Miller. I agree with everybody. I do have a question for Dwayne on slide 7.
Hey, go back.
If you could go back to slide 7.
Yes.
Can you explain the columns here, the annual recharge acre footage versus recovery and the total storage?
Yes. Not so the total storage. This would total storage would this much would indicate how much land based on the percolation rate that you would have to acquire in order to be able to store that much in the basin and be able to do that. This would be underground storage. You have a when you're talking about recharge, this is the amount that you would have to put into the groundwater basin, and that there again that determines the size of the project, the amount of land that would be required to do that. When you're looking at recovery, you're looking at what is the size of the pumping and the well system that would be necessary in order to be able to cover that amount of water and be able to design it. So these are the initial requests and considerations. And the one thing I do know that these are not right, and they'll all change. And it could be that we could be restricted because of land. We could have some restrictions associated with DWR. Or we could not have those restrictions and we actually make it a little bit larger, if we get more people involved and so forth. But hopefully to answer your question, that's what those are for, because this helps us to understand a little bit better, what kind of piping, what kind of recovery system you're going to need, what kind of piping system you're going to need to come in, and based on your percolation rate, how much land you would need to be able to perk into the ground that much water. And then you have to have a storage volume underneath that's accessible to be able to store that so you can recover it appropriately.
And what is the size of this in comparison to the phase 1?
Well, this would, this here, I'm looking at the numbers here. We've got 20, 70. Yeah, see, you're looking at 162,000, and we're right at 70. So this would be a considerably larger facility than what we have now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I really think we need to explore the phase 2 project, and I agree with all comments. Thank you.
Right.
No, I agree.
Frank?
Nope, I'm fine.
Shelley?
No, I think it's great. It's what we anticipated when we were hoping to, when we did phase one, we were hoping to maybe be able to do this as well if it was needed.
Thank you.
Okay, great. We'll take that direction and we'll begin to move forward. The next item on the agenda is the High Desert Water Bank associated with the construction and possible action to award a contract for the Stage 1 and Stage 2 recharge water system improvements project for the High Desert Water Bank. Project number HDWB 22-01. Nicholas Construction for the amount of $33,337,110, and this is the one of the major contracts that we will have for the Phase 1 project. And as we've mentioned previously, this is funded by Metropolitan Water District. And Justin Livesay will provide a staff report, and at the end, we're hoping we can get a board order approved to award the contract. So,
all right. Thank you, Dwayne. Good evening, President Dice, members of the board. I've got a brief presentation here for you tonight, and I will jump right in. So the Stage 1 and Stage 2 recharge systems improvement project. This is the grading of the basins at the High Desert Water Bank, as well as the recharge pipelines out there. Some of you made a visit to the site and got a chance to look at the recharge basin layout on a set of plans that Mr. Joe Long brought out to the site with him. But this project was placed out to bid on April 8th, 2022. The package consists of approximately 12,000 linear feet of recharge piping, ranging from 96 inches in diameter to 12 inches in diameter, and approximately 1.2 million cubic yards of earthwork to grade those recharge basins. The package does include an early milestone to have the Stage 1 recharge area complete and operational by May of 2023, about a year from now. And that was a commitment that we made to the Metropolitan Water District in the event that we've got water next year, that they have water next year to recharge on the project site. That milestone would also trigger their start of their $2 million per year payments to AVEK. So here is the diagram I was just mentioning. This is the one that we had out at the project site with us. You can see on this map the way that the recharge basins are laid out. This area down below at the bottom or south portion of the site is the Stage 1 recharge area here. And you can see in blue the recharge pipelines here that will be installed as well as part of this project. We opened bids for this project on May 31st, just last week, and we got some participation from 3 contractors. You can see them listed here in the table. Blois Construction from Oxnard bid $49 million, a little over. Ames Construction out of Corona bid $37,208,000, and Nicholas Construction out of Shafter bid $33,337,110. They were the low bid on this project. For reference, the engineer's estimate for this project is $39,485,000. And our budget included $39,549,000 for this particular construction package. So these bids came in about $6 million under both the engineer's estimate as well as the budgeted amount. Nicholas Construction has worked for the agency. They've completed about 6 projects for us. They hold a current and active Class A general engineering contractor's license, and they're currently constructing the underground recharge piping project at our West Side Water Bank and doing very well on that project. Kennedy Jenks and Stantec both reviewed the bid packets that were received. found no issues, as well as AVEK's legal counsel also reviewed the bid packages and found no issues. And so with that, Nicholas Construction is the low bidder on this project, and staff and the High Desert Water Bank Committee would make a recommendation to the full board that we award the construction contract for the stage 1 and stage 2 recharge system improvements to Nicholas Construction for the low bid amount of $33,337,110.
And I will add that, with all the projects we've done with Nicholas Construction, they are not ones that have a lot of change orders. And we've had very good success with.
Is somebody talking?
We're having trouble hearing you.
I couldn't even hear what he said.
Okay, I'll get closer.
Still can't hear.
No, I inadvertently pushed the mic off. I'm sorry. I just wanted to reiterate that we went. We've had a very good track history with Nicholas Construction. They have a very, very low change order ratio with the agency. So
That's good to know. Thank you, Dwayne.
on a percentage basis.
Are there any questions?
A comment, Director Lane. And I think it's a good project and we should approve it. But let me ask just a what if question. If we're signing the contract, is AVEK the sole signature on the contract?
Yes.
What would happen if we were not paid by Metropolitan Water District?
Well, they would be in breach of contract. I'll ask Jim Markman to give a legal response, but essentially we'd have to go sue them.
I'm sure we will, but I'm just thinking, what if?
Yeah. There's a lot of if that should occur, then I think we'd have a lot of legal remedies that are identified in the agreement.
20 years down the road. But one thing we should, and I'm sure AVEK's going to do this, but one thing we should make sure that they agree to this contract to this amount. I think they need to be make sure we get an okay, maybe a written okay.
Right. We've discussed it with them.
But I think if you had a written, it's better than saying, well, gee, we didn't know, or personnel change, or I don't know what can happen, but things do happen.
Right.
Good suggestion, George.
Dwayne, this is Rob. Doesn't Met give us advances at time or pay as they go? Aren't they funding this project as we progress?
They fund us in advance, so we don't incur any expenses unless we have the funds on hand to be able to repay those. So we're always ahead of that, but we do have regular communications with Metropolitan, and that's all documented so that we have that track history with Metropolitan and their concurrence. We're making sure that we have a real good case should anything like that happen, of how we've progressed and how we've communicated with Metropolitan through the whole process.
Just get the written okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. That was a very good point. Any more questions or discussion?
Do we need to make a motion?
Yes, please.
I don't see a board order here, but I'll make a motion for the $33,337,110 to approve the construction for Nicholas Construction.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Frank. And the board order is 7A1.
Okay. Next, please, staff, please include them when you're on the computer like this so we can all see them.
This is Director Sourceable. I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Shelley. Are there any more questions or discussion? Pam, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Rob Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sourceable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes. The measure passes unanimously. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. One last item I wanted to bring to the board's attention, just related to this contract. As you recall, the last couple of construction projects that we've awarded for the High Desert Water Bank also included services by Stantec for engineering services during construction, as well as Kennedy Jenks for our construction management services. So just for the board's future knowledge, this will be going back to the committee first, but the board should plan to see task order number 3 for both Kennedy Jenks and Stantec related to this contract coming back at a future date. And that's it. Thank you.
All right. If there is no further business tonight, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Also, Director Lane, also move, Mr. President.
Thank you, George.
Mr. Director Donato, I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Rob Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsabal,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes. The measure passes. We are now adjourned. Thank you all very much and have a good evening.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.